We're literally days into the new year as I record this video. And if you are in a leadership position, if you are in a leadership role, chances are high that you have major responsibilities planning your team's success for the year ahead. You have to put a workable vision board, in place. You probably feel that strong need to upgrade your leadership style because maybe, just maybe, you experienced some friction this past year that challenged your skill set, challenged your beliefs, or even it's possible that you want to upgrade your well-being physically, mentally, emotionally. And this is especially so if you have been giving so much of yourself in one area and completely neglecting other areas or even overlooking other areas. Let's say you're very present at work and very absent in your personal life. We all have goals, both spoken and unspoken, that we feel that need to attain this year. And all this can come with an element of anxiety. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how to turn that anxiety into your leadership superpower. And I'm going to show you 3 hidden powers inside the jitters that you experience. I'm also going to give you 3 ways that you can decode your anxiety signals and how you can install a strategic reframe so that this anxiety moves from fear to fuel. So by the end of this video, you're going to have tools that you can actually start using immediately today, and the ultimate being for you to settle into a new leadership paradigm where anxiety becomes a thing of the past, where anxiety actually becomes your age. So if you've been conditioned to suppress it, if you've been conditioned to hide it, if you have been conditioned to see it as a weakness, this video is going to challenge what you thought you knew about leading under pressure. Hi, welcome back to my channel, and if we are crossing paths for the very first time, Happy New Year. My name is Nancy. I'm a former airline professional turned workplace leadership trainer, and I also author content centered on healthy leadership, professional growth and career advancement, all the while protecting your mental and emotional well-being. So if you are in a leadership role or you're aspiring to take up one soon, my kind of content will resonate with you. Kindly consider subscribing, press that notifications button on your screen, and you will be receiving regular updates whenever I release a new video. I'm so happy to have you as part of this growing workplace leadership community. I do not take it for granted. Most career-oriented professionals believe that anxiety actually holds them back, but your most anxious thoughts could actually be the catalyst for your breakthroughs. And this is not about copying. This is about converting those jitters into something that is going to work for and with you instead of working against you. Anxiety just becomes a problem when it starts driving the decisions behind the scenes, when it starts driving the decisions in the background. And then instead of I shoulds, you find yourself resorting to should I moments, like forever second guessing yourself. So the plan with this video is to know how to pull it, to pull the anxiety into the light and turn it into focus, turn it into presence, into influence, and look at it as something trying to protect you rather than something that is trying to ruin you. So to start us off, I'm going to describe what leadership anxiety looks like for most professionals. Just think of the moments when you over-prepare for a meeting, because you don't trust the room atmosphere, you don't trust what you're going to experience, or the way you read people's tone and feel like this is a performance review. So in your mind, it's always, what are they trying to say? What are they really trying to say instead of what are they saying? Or even how you replay your words, your tone in your head, like, did I say that right? Was I supposed to stop there? Did they sense my reservations with this subject matter? And you're doing this hours or even days after the meeting has already taken place. Think of the moments where you delay speaking up until you're 100% sure that you're the most prepared person in the room. But then when someone's facial expression, changes, or when people just exchange looks, your mind goes into overdrive. Like you find yourself checking into the fight or flight feeling like, did I say something wrong? Are they judging me? Did I lose credibility here? Should I explain myself further? anxiety without direction can actually become self-sabotage. So if you don't learn how to use it, it's very easy for it to use you. It's going to start shaping how you speak. It's going to start shaping how you negotiate in high-stakes situations, how you set boundaries, how you handle conflicts, even how you show up in rooms where visibility actually matters. So let's flip that script, first by looking at the 3 hidden powers behind the leadership jitters that you experience. Anxiety can feel uncomfortable, but it also contains power, and you're probably asking yourself, how is this possible? Because it gives you foresight. Anxiety will often show up because your mind is scanning risk. And these are the moments when you pick out, the moments where you analyze what would actually go wrong and not just what is happening. So you find that you notice gaps, you anticipate consequences, and many people call that overthinking, but that's your what if mind acting as a risk radar. And when trained properly, this is going to become a leadership advantage for you. The reality is leaders who can anticipate risk plan better, they communicate better, and they even lead with strategy. So yes, anxiety can make you imagine the worst case scenarios. That's okay, but the leadership skill here is to use that imagination for preparation and not for panic. So instead of caving in, you step up. The hidden power number 2, anxiety sharpens social intelligence. It's always said that most leaders who experience anxiety are people who are highly attuned to other people. So you pick up on tone, you pick up on the nonverbals, you notice the micro shifts within the room. You sense the tension even before it becomes a thing, before it becomes conflict. And you can tell when something is being said without it being said. And you might even tell yourself, in your quiet moments, you might consider yourself too sensitive, but this is simply high level awareness without a filter. That's emotional intelligence potential. And when trained, it actually becomes stakeholder management, better conflict navigation, better leadership presence. These are the moments where you start showing up in rooms as a thermostat and not necessarily a thermometer. Hidden power number 3, anxiety is energy. Anxiety is activation. Your body's way of preparing you for performance, through adrenaline. It prepares you, through alertness, through increased focus. But if your mind attaches a scary story to that energy, you're going to find yourself experiencing it as panic. So start by telling yourself anxiety is energy, fear is the story, leadership is the direction. And your goal here is simply to direct it instead of completely deleting anxiety. And once you've uncovered the hidden powers, your next step is now to decode exactly what your anxiety is trying to tell you. Why? Because anxiety is a signal, and the signal always has a message. So in this video, we're going to discuss 3 ways, the first one being identify the type of anxiety, because not all anxiety means the same thing. Most leadership anxiety falls into one of 3 buckets. It could be 1, clarity anxiety, where you don't know what success really looks like. You cannot tell what success looks like. The expectations are not clear. The priorities keep shifting from one day to the next, so your brain is always operating on overdrive. It could also be capacity anxiety, just that fear of not being able to handle what's coming. You're not sure if you can handle more responsibility, more visibility, bigger consequences. And the imposter syndrome falls heavily under this, under capacity anxiety. And then the third is connection anxiety, which is the fear of judgment, fear of backlash, fear of rejection, or even being misunderstood. You tell yourself, what if they don't accept my ideologies? What if they look down on my contribution? What if they take it as C when what I was trying to explain is actually B? And this is especially common, unfortunately, for women in leadership, because the standards can be unfair, the standards can be inconsistent, and even emotionally exhausting. Just keep in mind that different anxiety needs a different response. Different anxiety needs a different antidote. Clarity anxiety needs structure. Capacity anxiety needs support and boundaries. Connection anxiety needs self-trust and communication tools. Then the second decode is separate facts from fear. Once you've identified the type of anxiety, now it's time to pick out the wheat from the chaff. Ask yourself, what do I know for sure about the situation and what am I assuming, because most anxiety is assumption, just wearing a fact costume. For example, the fact could be they haven't replied yet. My assumption is they're disappointed in me, you know. Another fact could be my manager asked follow-up questions during that interview, you know. Assumption could be they think I'm incompetent. When you separate facts from fear, your nervous system just calms down because the reality is looking you in the face. It becomes clearer now. And then the third decode is find the real need underneath that anxiety. Anxiety is usually protecting you from something, you know. So look inwards, take a journey inwards. Is your anxiety trying to protect your reputation? Is it trying to protect your sense of belonging or your sense of control? Could it be protecting your excellence? You know, just look at all this, then ask yourself, what do I actually need to act on right now? Maybe you need clarity. Maybe you need a boundary. Maybe you need to have that hard conversation, or maybe you just need rest. Maybe you need a plan. You know, this is your anxiety asking for support from you. And while decoding is powerful, you're also going to need a mental shift, you know, that point where you turn this anxiety from fear to fuel. I hope you're still with me, and if you are, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and if this video is actually resonating with you. You know, I promised to give you a reframe that you can use in real time starting today, because most professionals ask, you know, how do I stop feeling anxious? How do I stop feeling this uncomfortable? But the better question is, how do I lead effectively while feeling anxious? And here's your fear to fuel reframe in 3 simple steps. Step number 1, name it without drama. Just say, you know, this is anxiety that I'm feeling, or this is decision fatigue that I'm experiencing, or this is my nervous system doing what it does best when I'm faced with situations like this. And this automatically puts you in the driver's seat. You know, just try to steer away from words and thoughts that pull you backwards. You know, something like, what's wrong with me? I'm not ready. You know, I'm not qualified. Maybe they made a mistake choosing me. You know, just stick to exactly what you feel and give it a name. Step number 2, normalize it without shame. You know, just tell yourself, my body's preparing me for expansion. This is not danger. I'm actually expanding my horizons, because discomfort is not always danger. Most of the time, it's growth knocking at your door. And then the third step, direct it with intention. And this is where now the internal conversation comes in. You know, tell yourself, because I feel this way, I'm going to lead with clarity. I'm going to lead with calm, courage, boundaries, precision. This way, instead of anxiety driving your behavior, you're going to use it to sharpen your intention. And that's the shift right there, you know. So your strategic reframe from fear to fuel is name it, normalize it, then direct it. NND. And once you've internalized the reframe, now there's need for you to practice it until it feels natural to you. Transformation mostly happens in repetition. So I'm going to give you the tools that you can start using today to make all this possible. And the first one being the 90-second nervous system reset. I talk a lot about this in most of my videos. You know, when anxiety hits, your body is going to need regulation before your brain can actually calculate and start thinking clearly. So inhale to the count of 4, you know, then exhale to the count of 6, and then repeat this 4 times. And while you do it, you know, drop your shoulders and clench your jaws, and you're going to notice that you make better decisions when you're well regulated. The second tool that you want to consider is the signal script. You know, this is where you turn spiraling into strategy. Just say, all right, you know, I notice, like, for example, my chest is tight. That's a symptom. And the story I'm telling myself is, they're probably going to judge me, or they're not going to accept me. That's my interpretation. The fact is, I'm prepared and I don't know their reaction yet. And then at this point, what I need the most is clarity and maybe some grounding. So I will speak concisely and ask one clarifying question. That's your action plan. And here you're going to notice that the more you do this, clarity is going to start diluting panic. The third tool is the one move leadership anchor. You know, this is especially important for meetings. This is your power move preparation. You know, anxiety can make you rumble. So before any meeting, it tends to show up so easily. Choose 3 things. You know, first, one outcome. What do I want from this meeting? And then one boundary. what will I not do today? Or maybe I won't over explain, or I won't over apologize for sticking to my values. And then one sentence that you know you will say no matter what, something to the tune of here's what I recommend and why, or there's one thing that I'd like to relay on the table, or can we clarify what our end goal looks like before we continue with the meeting. And the plan here is for anxiety to stop hijacking your voice. And then the fourth tool, and this is a bonus, I just threw it in at the last minute, but it's just as important, the evidence bank. You know, if anxiety triggers imposter syndrome, do this on a weekly basis. You know, just write down 3 wins, big or small, you know, 3 strengths and proof that you can actually handle pressure. This is your way of overcoming analysis paralysis with very visible evidence. So if by now you've dialed in on the hidden powers inside the jitters that you experience when anxiety checks in, you've internalized ways to decode your anxious signals. And now you can actually install a strategic reframe to convert this anxiety from fear to fuel. And you equally have the practice tools, practical ones, you know, that you can start using today to make the above possible. Now is a good time for you to step into that new leadership identity, new leadership paradigm where anxiety actually becomes your age, where anxiety becomes a thing of the past. And the first paradigm shift, or the first mindset shift, is to move from proving yourself to trusting yourself. If you're a high performing professional, chances are quite high that you have at one point, or you're currently leading from a place of proving. You know, you want to prove that you're competent, you want to prove that you're worthy, you want to prove that you deserve that seat in that office. Confidence is not a mood, it's a practice, and you build it by keeping promises to yourself. You know, I'll speak even when I'm anxious. I'm going to set boundaries even when I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to decide without having to over-explain myself. This is you building a relationship with yourself, and this is what will eventually compound into self-trust. The second paradigm shift is to move from avoiding discomfort to using anxiety as direction. And this is where anxiety becomes your compass, it becomes your guiding light. You know, you start looking at it as data. Like if it spikes, ask yourself, where do I need clarity, or where am I out of alignment with my values? If it repeats, ask yourself, what boundary am I overlooking? What boundary am I avoiding? If it intensifies, ask yourself, what support or structure is missing in this place? And your advantage here is that you're going to evolve faster because you are listening and you've listened sooner. And you can see that you don't have to choose between being ambitious and being anxious. You're safer aligning the two so that your anxiety becomes your fuel and not a chain. I hope this video resonated with you, and if it did, please let me know in the comments what triggers your leadership anxiety the most. You know, is it meetings, is it visibility, conflict, or even performance pressure? If you find that my kind of content speaks your language, kindly consider subscribing if you haven't already. Press that notifications button on your screen, you know, to receive regular updates whenever I release a new video. And then take a moment to have a look at this video right here on how to stay emotionally balanced when everything around you, when everything at work shifts. It's going to give you more insight on how to build emotional steadiness in an uncertain professional climate. Thank you so much for your company, and see you on the next one. Bye.